All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fully Loaded Podcast. This is FLW ring announcer Brady hanging out with Christian Rose. Christian, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, actually. Had a good lunch, had some Bloody Marys. I feel great.
Yeah, the food is great here. Seven's Restaurant at the Vegas Motel in Minot,
Delicious.
North Dakota. Cheap pop,
Most tasty.
most tasty.
Good
Food
drinks.
is pretty good here. So we're just trying to get to know Christian Rose, kind of scratch the surface with you here. First off, a lot of people always ask, you're kind of, I'm going to just say, this is a, above PG level podcast, so you're an
Okay,
asshole.
Yeah. Yes,
I'm just going to throw it out there.
I'm a little bit of a dickhead.
You're an asshole in the ring. You come out, you flip everybody off. You're not a stranger to kids. Just yell at them and just tell them where they can put it. Are you like this all the time? Are you like this back home?
I would say no. I think that some people that deal with me might say otherwise. I don't think I'm that much of a jerk round the clock. I think that I really crank it up for shows for the weekend, but I think that it's like during the week when I'm forced to be polite and cordial, in social situations or professional situations, stuff like that. And I don't want to be. I think I just kind of like save that negativity so that I'm in the back of my head. I was like, hey, it's fine. I can be nice to this idiot on Tuesday, but this weekend I'm gonna go flip off some kids and,
Right.
and yell.
You're gonna see that guy that cut you
yeah.
off in traffic in the face of
Oh,
an
man,
8-year-old
like,
fan.
And it like, I'm not. I try to be nice to people that are nice to me, and I try to be nice when people that I'm dealing with, in wrestling and stuff, because it's like they're my coworkers, they're my peers, they're my friends. But like by and large, I'm not that much of a social person. During the week, I'm usually just keeping, for the most part, to myself. I've got a couple of friends that, like, I'll hang out with, but it's basically I get up, and when I'm at the gym, I'm got my headphones in, I'm by myself, and
Head down, pump away.
yeah,
right?
exactly. And when my day is done, I go home, and people might be like, "Hey, man, you want to come out and do everything?" I was like, "No, I'm just I'm gonna chill at home tonight," And I think that maybe that's part of the asshole vibe that I give off, and it's not that. It's not that I don't like any person in particular. It's that I just don't like people most of the
Just
time.
people in general, kind of that Brock Lesnar thing, just kind of show
A
up.
little
you
bit,
don't,
yeah. I just kind of keep to myself on most things. And it's like the quote from Clerks, Randall, when he's like, "I hate everyone and everything seems stupid to me."
Right.
Like, Randall is kind of my spirit animal.
That's it.
Like,
Doing a little shuffle. And
yeah, exactly.
Nobody can see it, but doing a little shuffle.
strut on the top of the counter and everything. Like,
Right on.
oh, man.
So, you talk about training there. Just walk me through a typical day of training with you. Are you straight up weights, or a lot of cardio, or you do CrossFit, anything like that?
I don't do CrossFit. I've had a lot of people recommend it to me because, like, I have like some flexibility issues. I'm not very flexible at all, and they said it would help and everything. I do a lot of cardio, like anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes a day.
Right on.
The gym that I go to right now is real awesome. I love it. They've got a lot of equipment, a lot of cool stuff. But I try to start with cardio and then I lift. And the reason I do this is when I was in training, I was taught, we always did cardio before we did any training in the ring.
Got to keep that heart rate up. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And my trainer, one of the ways that he explained it to me was, I want you to be able to do these suplexes and these slams and all these other things, but I need you to be able to do it when you are gassed, when you are just sucking wind,
so
that when you're on a show and you're fine, then it's easier and it looks better and everything just smooths. I was like, that made sense to me. So like now, when I go to the gym, I always do my cardio, gets my blood flow going, gets my heart rate up and everything, so that if I can lift X amount of pounds on whatever exercise while I'm kind of gassed after, and like I mix up my cardio too, but I figure if I can do it while I'm blown up, I can do it easier.
Exactly.
When I'm just like, I'm ready for a match.
You're ready and raging,
yeah.
right? All right. Well, you're coming up on a year here in FLW. June is your kind of your debut last year in June, so about a year anniversary. You won the Outlaw title, the FLW Outlaw title, back in December at a fully loaded Christmas. Just straight up, how long have you been wrestling though? And how long have you been around the business?
Technically speaking, my first match was in March of '06, so I've passed that 10-year mark already. The reason I say technically speaking is like when I first started, it was a very small local promotion, and the guys that were running it were nice guys, but they honestly like just didn't know anything about like wrestling really. But I didn't know.
They were fans, but they weren't business people.
Yeah, like they understood like the real basics, and like keep in mind that like I didn't know enough to know that they didn't know.
Right.
So it was the blind leading the blind, and
You didn't
dumb.
know what you didn't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was not even educated enough to know that these guys weren't educated. So I was initially trained, and it was like a 14-foot ring it was homemade.
Ooh.
The guy actually built a ring
So
out of old roll cages from derby cars. That was what the ring frame was made
Ouch.
of. So I basically learned like the absolute basics, like running the ropes, the buckles, the bumps, and like a few of the holds. And then these guys started putting me on shows, and I was not ready. I had no idea how wrestling really worked. And so the first several shows that I did, I was just getting the shit beat out of me. And not only that, but the matches were bad. And I was so uninformed that I didn't understand why they were. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And there was actually a referee. He used to referee for IWA Mid-South and NWA. And I talked to him because I was like, you've been around, like, you know your stuff. What do I got to do? And he goes, brother, you don't know anything. I was like, can you at least, like, help me? Like, I know I don't know. Like, educate me. So I spent, like, the first 3 years that I was wrestling, it was, like, maybe one show a month, trained any time that I could.
Right.
And then kind of basically started, like, picking things up. So that's why I say technically, because then, like, I basically got retrained, and usually I go by early 09 is when I got started, because that's when I was like, well, you're not a total waste. You know what I mean? Those first 3 years, it was really just like me mimicking stuff that I would see on TV and having no idea how to do it.
This gets people to pop. I'll do that.
Yeah, and not having gear, because I was like really, like, for some reason when I first started, I was just adamant that I did not want to wear wrestling gear.
Right.
And I don't know if it was like
Cut off jean shorts and the cowboy boots.
I did. Let's see. I did basketball shorts, and I wrestled in Chucks.
Oh, there you go.
And I was now looking back, and I was like, how I survived that, I have no idea, because like those things will.
There's no support at all in those.
None.
You're gonna break an ankle or something. Yeah.
And but so basically, I guess in a roundabout way, 10, 11 years now.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's it. Nice veteran here. Kind of new to FLW within the last year, but you've been carrying yourself well. You're becoming kind of the, you're calling yourself the real FLW champion with your Outlaw title there.
I take great pride in having that Outlaw championship. Like
you are the longest reigning champion in FLW currently.
Currently, yeah. Hopefully of all time.
Right.
The thing that I take pride in with being Outlaw champion here is I take pride in it not being the main event. I take pride in it being the, for lack of a better term, I guess, the mid-card.
The mid-card main
title.
event.
Because when I was a fan, that was, for some reason, I was always getting more pulled into that. Like, I was more interested in who the Intercontinental Champion was than who's the world champion.
The Chris Jerichos.
Yeah,
the
that's my favorite wrestler, actually.
Yeah.
Chris Jericho. He's the guy that I steal the most
I could
from.
see that. I can definitely see some Chris Jericho in you. A little shut the hell up.
Would you please shut the hell up? But the thing that I think is cool about the Outlaw title, and I think that now, like, it's been, you said December was when I won it, so now this is coming up on June, be 6 months and change. And I think the thing that's cool to me is, like, I always remember, like, in ECW when RVD was TV champion for 23 months, almost a 2-year reign. And I thought that what was real amazing about that was that he made that title equally as important to the world title. Like, there was a handful of times where the TV title main evented the pay-per-view, and the world title was on earlier in the show. And, like, who's to say that is going to happen? But I would love for the Outlaw title run that I've got going to get to that point in FLW where it's like,
tonight's the night we're going to featuring the Outlaw title, because it's got all this prestige. Kind of like when Cena and Rusev were battling out, kind of for the U.S. title.
Yeah, exactly.
You almost thought they were going to put that as a main event for one of the shows.
I did too.
They kind of buried the world title there for a while. The U.S. title was the main event for a while.
I can remember there was one TNA pay-per-view where the X Division title was the main event.
Yeah.
It was the first time that they did the AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Samoa Joe triple threat. And I thought that was awesome, that at that point that championship was elevated to where it was equally as important. These guys can main event the show on pay-per-view. Yep. They can go.
They're
going to
draw. They're going
to tear it up. Like,
it's not just a throwaway belt, anything like that. It's not just a belt for belt's sake, anything like that. Right on. Well, you can. Let's see your last night, Mr. Incredible. You had a hell of a match with him.
Yes.
Had a lapse in reason here, am I not?
Very bit physical match. A lot of suplexes, not being thrown by me. I think I hit one. Let's see, man. Me and him have when I first started, that was my first night, kicking Mr. Incredible in the head. That was opened the show in a match and then closed the show by kicking Incredible in his face.
Right.
And now finally, like, we're coming back to it again, it seems. But, like, he's a guy that, like, I'd heard about from some of the guys that have been up here before, North Dakota and this area and everything. A lot of the Minnesota crew, the Darren Corbins and Eric Cannons, you know, they told me about Mr. Incredible and the Black Hammer. And they're like, hey, if you're ever in the ring with him, avoid the Black Hammer at all costs. And they told me a lot of horror stories about guys getting busted up and everything. I was like, oh, man. And then so that was kind of wild when I first started up here because it was not like a quiet start. You know what I mean?
No, you just came in roaring, you know, your presence is known.
Which is cool. It's cool, but it puts a lot of pressure on you, too, because then it's like, okay, well, Incredible's like top guy.
Exactly.
He's one of the top guys here, and
he is definitely the workhorse of the FLW. You know,
the backbone of it.
He has faced a lot of the big names in the industry, and he kind of sets the bar, and it looks like you climbed over that bar last night easily. I mean, you're the champion, you retained.
Yep, indeed.
Yep.
Still.
And
Hashtag
still.
and still.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. What?
What?
But yeah, he's definitely one of my favorite opponents. I think that, like, we get a little bit more familiar with each other, obviously, every time we get in the ring. And it's like, okay, I know he does this. This is how I can reverse that. And he knows I do this, and this is how he's going to reverse that. And I always thought that was what made for cool matches.
Exactly.
You know, like, even going back to the Chris Jericho love that I have, like, some of my favorite matches were the matches that he had with Rey Mysterio in 2009 because they were just, like, each match was just an elevation of the previous match.
They just knew each other so well.
And everything just clicked. And I love having that kind of chemistry. And there's a lot of guys up here that I feel like I have good chemistry with.
Right.
A lot of good talent.
And yeah, you're not going to have a good match unless you have good chemistry with someone.
Exactly.
Speaking of tonight, you're taking on, we are recording this prior to night 2 of A Lapse in Reason. Tonight, you're taking on Jacob Austin Young. That kind of got a start last month in Fargo. You guys kind of had a little static. We'll call it static.
Indeed. And going back to that chemistry thing, that show in Fargo was the first time I had ever met or been in the ring with Jacob Austin Young. And afterwards, I was so proud of that match. I was very happy with it because it was very organic. And there was a moment in that match that it was one of those things that you couldn't have predicted was going to happen, but it just made everything so electric in that building. And that was, you were there, you saw it. Yeah. I threw him into for those of you who are listening to this and didn't see it, 1, watch it on the Fight app.
Yep, watch it on the Fight app or YouTube.
And 2, the venue was a hockey arena, and so I chucked him into the wall. And Outlaw Rules have a 20 count on the floor, so I chucked him into the wall, and everyone was like, whoa, you know, or whatever. And I get in the ring, and the referee's counting. So this is the story on this, like, awesome organic moment for me from my point of view. Right. So I'm in the ring. I'm yelling at the referee to count. I'm prone to yelling. I yell a lot. So I'm yelling at the referee to count. And count faster. Count him out. Whatever. I turn around because I'm yelling at some fans that are trying to cheer for him. And I can hear the referee's count. He gets about, I want to say, 7 or 8. And all of a sudden, there's this huge roar from the crowd. And I was like, what? So, like, I turn, I look, and I'm, like, trying to see because I can't see because the ref's in my way, and then there's people standing up. And finally, I see that a kid from the crowd, probably about, I'm guessing 9
That's right.
or so.
Something about 8 or 9 years old,
8 or 9 years old, went over there and like, grabbed him by the hand and was like, this kid was helping him get back to the ring. And I thought that was such a cool moment, and the crowd just came unglued.
The goosebumps moment of the match.
Yeah,
type of thing,
absolutely.
It's just chills in the air.
And so then the kid actually helps him get back to the ring. He gets in at like 19, the last second, which was like, that was such a cool thing that nobody could have ever predicted was going to happen. Yeah. And because it was completely organic, that was absolute, just one of my favorite moments.
Like when your jaw drops, you're like, what do we do to
Yeah, exactly. And now what? You know what I mean? And then like the crowd was, because like that's my thing is I'm very big on crowd reaction and crowd approval. If I am going to be a jerk, if I'm going to be the asshole on the show, I want to be the biggest asshole on the show. I don't want anybody to get more heat than me. So that going back to last night, the match with Incredible, another thing that like made me very happy was before the match even started, as soon as my music hit and you announced the Outlaw champion, boo! Yeah. Like they're conditioned to it now that they're like, this guy, he doesn't even have to come through the curtain and we hate him.
You hear the music, you hear Evergreen Terrace. Like,
exactly. Screw this guy. He can go to hell. But then that match where the kid helped Jacob get back in the ring was so good, and everything from that moment on, I think there was only a few more minutes after he got back in the ring with the kid's assist. Everything from that moment on was just absolutely electric. And that's the type of moments that I love for wrestling. It's the creative aspect of it. I think that this is like, I always view wrestling as the most disrespected form of art that is popular.
Right.
You know, like, and I hate when people just dismiss it as, you know, hillbilly entertainment or whatever.
You know,
and I'm
dudes rolling around in tights or something like that.
Yeah, it's like you have no idea what we have to go through, because you have to be an athlete, a stunt man. You got to some level, an improv artist to think on your toes.
An actor.
An actor. You got to be able to. A speaker. You got to be a public speaker of sorts. You know, like
Can't be shy.
No, exactly.
It's not for the shy.
No, I was just not. You're wearing basically fancy underwear in front of hundreds of people, getting dropped on your head. It's not for the shy.
And that's it. I mean, if you take a hard bump or anything like that, you have to still, you know, like I got to get to this next spot, everything like that.
Like you
and
can't.
It's grueling.
If you get your bell rung, you can't just stop.
They say any pro athlete that's made it into a wrestling ring has always said that it's the hardest thing they've ever done. Lawrence Taylor says it's the hardest thing, harder than any football practice he's ever had, any football match, any football game he's ever had.
A few months ago, I was actually on a show that we had a handful of guys there that were from Sports Illustrated. They were actually covering indie wrestling, and it was a show where Bret Hart was there as well.
Oh,
so they were basically drawn in by Bret Hart. I was like, oh wow, Bret Hart's going to be on this little indie show, and so like. There's guys there from Sports Illustrated, and he brought his friends that are MMA fighters.
Right.
So there were guys there, and I'm sorry I don't know their names, but I don't follow MMA. But there were guys there from Bellator and from UFC, and they were like in the locker room. They were real cool and everything, and they even got to do a segment on the show, which was real cool. They were like. There was one guy in particular that was just amazed at the backstage aspect of wrestling. He's like, I had no idea that this is how this happens. You know, I just had no clue how this actually works. And then later that night, he does like a double axe handle in the ring or whatever, like Jimmy King style. And he was like, wow, it's really hard to stand on those ropes. And I'm like, now imagine doing a flip, you know?
Right. And probably the highlight of his week, too.
Yeah,
like that,
obviously, those guys were great. Like,
they get punched in the face for real for a living.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like we got sidetracked, but the creative aspect of wrestling at this point is what really keeps me going on it, and that's something I like about Fully Loaded is that we have as Matt Nix shows me up by doing a backflip in the ring.
Just like nothing, and just sits and relaxes.
Oh, I'm Matt Nix. I'm in sock feet. I do backflips. But I love it up here because this place allows a lot of the wrestlers to have some creative freedom with what they do in the ring.
I think that kind of helps. We give you that freedom here, and it lets you kind of hone in. What you're doing. I mean, and not saying it's a practice or anything like that, but you're really allowed to like explore your skills. You're allowed to do what you want. Where in some companies, they just say, no, you do this, and this, and that's it. And you're done. You do it my way or the highway or anything like that.
I always try to use the phrase, and I love it for the indies especially, throw shit at a wall and see what sticks.
Right, exactly.
Because, you know what I mean? Like, you can try something new, and maybe the crowd responds, like gangbusters, and then that becomes an integral part of who you are as a wrestler.
Exactly.
Or you can try something new, and it's met with no response whatsoever, and you're like, well, gave it a whirl, and that didn't work.
Get the X-Pac reaction.
Yeah,
it's just crickets all day.
Just on to the next one.
Oh, that was a nice Bronco Buster there. Look at that guy kind of flop around the ring. He's a martial arts master. No. All right, I want to bring it back into Jacob Austin Young, the match tonight, again for the Outlaw title. I know, that's okay. We got sidetracked. My ADD kicks in everywhere. Jacob Austin Young tonight, the one thing I wanted to bring up, I just kind of want to put him over real quick here. He fought you for the Outlaw title, night one in Fargo. Night two, we were in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. He took on Matt Cage for the No Limits title. That match went 30 minutes.
It was a great match. Great match.
30 solid minutes. You just mentioned a lot of cardio earlier in this interview. Are you ready for that tonight? If it comes at 30 to 60, I mean, we
absolutely. Like I said, I pride myself on my cardio. In ring, I I have said this to so many people. I do not get gassed in ring. I can only think of one match I've had in the past 5 years where I was like really sucking air in the ring to the point where it was hindering me.
Right.
So if he wants to go 30 minutes tonight, hey, that's fine.
Right.
Usually I can get the job done in a lot less, but that's not on me. That's on the other guy.
Right.
But you bring up a good point. We know that he can do 30 minutes. We saw it just recently. So if that's the way the cookie crumbles, so be it.
But you are ready for it, and that's
absolutely,
good.
absolutely. I've had 30-minute matches in my career. I've had 40-minute matches. I've had one 60-minute match. It was a tag match, but it was a 60-minute match. But I can go distance if I need to.
Right on. Well, good luck tonight defending
Thank
your
you very
title.
much,
We
sir.
want to thank you for sitting down with us tonight at
Anytime.
FLW. Don't forget to check out all the matches on the Fight app. You can check us out on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all those places. Christian Rose,
Be sure
it's
to
been a
follow me
pleasure.
on Twitter as well,
Follow
at Bitter
Christian Rose.
Lunatic. Also, add me on Snapchat. It's basically just me yelling about stuff. But some people
I
find
have
it
you
fun.
on Snapchat. It's either gym time or yelling. Yes,
yeah,
it's-
that's about
it's
it.
Gym or asshole. All right, have a good
Thanks,
one,
man. Yep.
Take care.